Okay, hello.
Hail, comrades.
Welcome to the very first episode of our show. What's our show called?
Effing with the Ineffable.
Effing with the Ineffable.
I came up with that.
He did, and we'll talk about why in a minute. But this is the very first episode of our show where we're going to be talking about all kinds of issues from a libertarian perspective and a Catholic perspective, because we're both libertarian and we're both Catholic.
And a Packers perspective, sometimes.
From his perspective, not mine. And yeah, so welcome. Okay, let's introduce ourselves. So I am Zoe, and this is
Smokey Piggleton.
Will. He's my dad, and I'm his daughter. And
that kind of stands to reason. That's a usual.
Yep, that's usually how that goes.
Complementary relationship kind of style.
It's not I'm my own grandpa kind of relationship.
I am my own grandpa.
Don't sing too much or we're going to have to pay royalties. They will.
So who wants to claim that song? Anybody out there want to claim that song?
Don't. This is all under fair use, so don't strike us for that. Okay, why are we making a show? Well, first of all, I have listened to podcasts for a very, very long time. Probably at least 10 years I've been listening to podcasts, and I've always enjoyed them. And I watch a lot of YouTube. And I've been trying to convince my husband to make a show with me for a while, and he's not been interested. But then one day we were talking, and my dad, you also have wanted to make a show, right?
I thought about it, yeah, a couple times. I'm not really well versed in podcastery or YouTuberifics, but I was thinking, hey, that'd be kind of fun. And my son, who allowed us to say his name, Luke, had a channel where he was talking about video games quite a bit, which was, I guess that's the thing to do on YouTube. So
for some people, yeah.
Hashtag Fortnite. So yeah, that's what I was thinking. Hey, I ought to get on there and talk, because I like to express my opinions. Pontificate.
So
ex cathedra. Here it is. Here's the chair.
And we should mention, we're not usually going to be together to record these episodes if we continue doing this for any length of time, because we don't live in the same house or even in the same state. I live in the DC area. I don't know if you want to say where you live, but
I live in the Appalachians.
Yes. So I'm visiting here for Christmas, so that's why we're able to record together. And we're hopefully going to be able to make a few shows while I'm here, but then most of the time we're going to be doing this remotely. So yeah. And then I think the last thing. So anyway, so as to why we're making this show, first of all, we both have kind of been interested in making a show in general, but when I was talking to my husband the other day, I said, we should really make a podcast. And my mom said, your dad has also been wanting to make a podcast. And I said, we should do one together. And then
kismet.
And when we decided about what we wanted to make the show about, we're both very strong libertarians. And, well,
I'm stronger than she is.
Okay. And
she believes in the state.
Full
anarchy. No, I'm not sure.
We'll
get
it.
That.
I would say we're both minarchists, but we'll get into that. At least I'm a minarchist. He might be more of an anarchist lately. I don't know.
You know, I don't trust people enough to not have some kind of authority and overarching authority. So there needs to be some kind of archy.
But hopefully it's
wish we had a monarchy.
Where we're in charge, or we're the monarchs.
Where mom is the queen.
No,
she'd be perfectly willing.
Oh yeah, I mean, who wouldn't want to be?
Everybody wants to. That's enough.
Yep, no more.
You know where I was going with that.
So we both are very pro liberty and pro freedom and want to talk about those kind of issues that come up in our day-to-day life, but we're also Catholic. I would say I'm a struggling Catholic trying to be Catholic, and I think there's a huge misconception that Catholics can't be libertarian. I have a lot of friends in the
What?
DC area who are confused about that and who don't think that, well, DC is an extremely liberal area, first of all, if you've never been there. But
So is my little part of Appalachia.
so I think that
Narrows it down quite a bit. Because
true.
most of Appalachia is pretty.
Very
Keep your hands off of guns.
So anyway, I think that it's important to show that you can care about liberty and freedom and not want the government to intervene in things and be Catholic at the same time. And I think a lot of the misconceptions that people have around libertarianism and that they're all, pro-choice and pro-drugs. I mean, I am pro-drugs in a way, but we'll get into that more, I'm sure.
Probably.
But, pro-libertinism, I should say, as far as anything goes, and, morally anything goes. I don't think that morally and politically you have to have, I don't think you don't have to believe that something is moral for it to be legal, I guess. But we'll talk a lot about that as the show progresses, I'm sure. But,
yeah, you're kind of rambling.
Okay, well, I'll stop. The last thing I wanted to start with is why the name. My dad came up with this name. So why the name?
Because you can be the unbeable, see the unseeable, and F the ineffable.
So that's why we are effing with the ineffable.
The ineffable. What does ineffable mean? Ineffable means, and I quote, too great or extreme to be expressed or described in words, such as the ineffable natural beauty of the Appalachians.
So that's what we're doing here. We're trying to figure out the things that we can't quite figure out all the way.
We're trying to use a lot of words to describe those things that can't be described in words. It's a fool's errand, kids.
Because we both like to talk a lot, so I guess that's ultimately why we're here.
And we're seekers of wisdom and understanding. We would like to know why things happen the way they do and what we can do to be better people.
As far as citizens and as far as, Catholics and and I think there's a lot of intersection between those two things. So
definitely.
Yeah. Well, let's
although there is a separation of church and state, and I do believe that is a good idea.
Same, definitely. And yeah, I'm sure that'll come up probably every time we talk about things.
But Christ is my king. So Christ is more my king than anybody is my president.
That's true. Yeah.
So, but nevertheless, render unto Caesar.
Yep, and we are still citizens of the United States.
And I love it. I love the United States.
Me too. It's probably the most libertarian country there is.
It's the best. This is the best time and place to ever be a human being. There's never been a better time or place to be a human being. Look at all this stuff. Even I got like stockpiled behind me. Stuff everywhere. And not just stuff, but there's also information. There's culture that's available to all of us. There's so much culture that it becomes a confusing noise of culture. But if you want to tune in, you can tune in to different cultural channels and follow those and find out what really turns you on and gets you going and makes you feel like you're really in touch with what's real and what's good. And that's hopefully what we can talk about is what's real and what's good. If there's anything good, if there's anything valuable, hopefully we can identify that and be grateful for it and talk about it and appreciate it.
The good, the true, and the beautiful, right? That's what we're always seeking. So, well, let's talk about...
To love the good, to do what's right, and to walk humbly with our Lord. Micah. That's one, that's one of the only
biblical quotes.
Verses I know.
The
rest are written in my heart, and I can occasionally access them, but very few of them are written in my head.
And as I am homeschooling my oldest child, part of our homeschooling is Bible memorization. So as time goes on, I'll have some more in my head, but yeah, because knowing the Bible isn't important or anything. I mean, we are Catholic after all. Just kidding.
But memorization, does that really help people to have it in their heart?
Okay, well, now we're
Does
really
it
going to
move
get
into your heart?
We're going to get into some homeschooling theory here, but Charlotte Mason, who is a homeschool... Do you know who Charlotte Mason was?
No.
She was a woman who lived in the late 1800s, early 1900s in...
Oh, that's Charlotte Mason.
in England, who was a huge revolutionary in the homeschooling world. She... I don't really follow any homeschooling theory strictly, but I definitely appreciate Charlotte Mason and what she had to say about children and the way that they learn things. And definitely, like, scripture memorization is an important thing because, especially when children are young, my oldest is only 4.5, which, by the way, Charlotte Mason would say that I probably shouldn't make her memorize anything till she's 6. And I don't make her do anything, but she is very, she's a smart kid who wants to learn and wants to do school, quote unquote. So anyway, yeah, Charlotte Mason would definitely say that memorization is an important part of building habits and teaching kids good virtues and all that kind of stuff. So if we want to talk more about that, I can bring in some actual Charlotte Mason quotes sometime. But yes, I do think...
I think we're good on that.
All right, good. I've made my point.
Did you know that I worked in a Montessori school when I was in...
You did tell me that
college.
before, but yeah.
That's a different kind of mindset altogether. That's where kids are left to follow their own natural curiosity, and whatever they want to learn, give them access to the things that they want to learn. And that's kind of like that's what the internet is.
Yeah, I mean, we'll make a whole episode about homeschooling because I have a lot to say about it.
Pop-ups are the intrusion of somebody else's agenda into our consciousness,
into your exploration of truth.
That doesn't help me to learn.
But we'll definitely talk more about homeschooling because I think it's a good issue in terms of Catholicism, in terms of, like, you know, not necessarily going with the culture of the world. And I think it's also good in terms of libertarianism and in terms of not letting the government educate your children and indoctrinate your children. But if you want a good resource, before we talk about that, you should look into John Taylor Gatto, who is really big into open source learning, is what he calls it, which is open source learning. It just means that anything that you need to know, you can discover through your own exploration of things. So you can read books about things that you want to know. You can look on the internet to learn things that you want to know. And that's really ultimately how kids are going to learn everything that they need to know in their life. They don't need to be taught a curriculum from the time that they're 4, 5, 6 until the time that they're 18 or whatever. They can figure it out for themselves, and it's going to look differently for everybody. Anyway, we're going way off on a tangent
so
here.
Gatto is Gateau?
No, Gatto. Gatto.
Is that Italian?
I don't know what it is.
The French is better, gâteau.
Well, if you
I believe gâteau in French means cat. Or is it shot?
It was cake.
Maybe it's shot. Yeah, maybe it is cake. I like cake.
I don't think either of us know French at all, so as you can tell.
Je ne sais quoi.
But yeah, so
Les bon temps roulés.
I don't even know what that means.
Let
Let the good times roll.
roll.
Okay, I do know that one. Moving on from French.
Yeah.
Tell me about your new job. Let's talk about things that have happened in the last week. So,
All right. I had a job. Should I talk about how I got my old job? Yeah, let's
if it's
do that.
relevant,
It's I don't know. It's relevant to who I am, I guess.
Sure.
If anybody's interested, I'm barely interested. I don't know why anybody else would be. Anyway, I used to live in the far reaches of the north, the Upper Peninsula,
the Great White North.
the Great White North, where it was snowy all the time. Came from the land of the ice and snow with the midnight. Oh,
Yeah, that's enough.
and I finally got sick of shoveling all the time and decided to look for a more southern area. I had been born in Chattanooga, Tennessee. There's some interesting biographical
Tidbits.
info about me. And I had visited down here in Appalachia a few different times and always loved it and decided that's it. I'm moving. I'm sick of just being where I am. I have options. I was born free, free as the wind. And I decided that I was going to move and put a snowblower in the back of my vehicle and drive until somebody said, "Hey, what's that thing for?" It's like, okay, I'm home. And so I did that, and I actually didn't do that, but I knew where I wanted to go. I had looked for jobs. I called, and sight unseen, I talked on the phone, and the day I talked on the phone, I don't know if you remember this, but it was...
I was at college at the time, I should mention. So I grew up almost my whole life in the Great White North.
Yeah.
And then after I left, I had already been married and left for college by the time that this all happened.
This is like 5 years ago now.
So, continue.
So, I talked to them on the phone. I said, "Hey, what's the temperature down there?" They said it's a pretty cold day, highs only into the high 30s. And on that day, the kids were home because of cold danger. It was so cold that the wind chill was more than 20 below zero. And so I said, well, that's 50 degrees warmer than it is here. I think that sounds good to me. And so I took a job in mental health. I'm a mental health counselor, mainly a social worker who does mental health counseling and substance abuse counseling. Did that for 5 years, community mental health, and it's community mental health. It is what it is. It's good work, but it's not that much fun of a job. So I decided finally I was ready for another change, and I looked around, and now I'm working as a substance abuse counselor in a prison. Just recently started that.
This just started 2 weeks ago. You had a week of training.
Orientation. Yeah.
And then this past week was your first week of being
officially
I should say. It was what? Monday.
3 days.
Yeah. Because of Christmas holidays and everything.
And because we work 4/10s.
Yeah.
So
yeah. 3 days. And what did you do this past week at your job?
Because of COVID, this is 2020.
Yep.
By the way.
December 26th, 2020.
Yeah. Somebody's birthday.
My sister.
Yeah. Jesus's birthday was yesterday, and then to one up him, she had to be born today.
Right after 12:26 a.m. you said?
12:50 something. Yeah.
Almost Christmas, but not quite. But anyway.
Yeah, she just barely sneaked. Anyway. So, this past week, because of COVID, I was not able to see any clients. And so I spent most of the time getting oriented to the new program and the curriculum that they use. And then on Wednesday, I watched 3 different kinds of movies. I watched What I did, I used a system to try to figure out what movies I wanted to watch, or that I should watch, I guess. And I looked on Metacritic, and I went through the top movies of all time, and I watched Intolerance from 1916, 105 years old. That movie is. D.W. Griffith. Good movie. It's a very good movie. It's about the theme of tolerance and intolerance and how that has played out throughout the ages, and how intolerant people, cancel culturers and stuff, have always just kind of thwarted the natural progress of human relationships, and people have tried to boss other people around and been intolerant of other people, and it sucks. So it's a libertarian movie. And I also watched the Battleship Potemkin, which was about oppressive governments, the Tsarist government, which ended up badly because they botched that. They didn't treat people right, and they had a revolution on their hands. And so Battleship Potemkin was about the 1905 uprising of the sailors on the ship Potemkin. Good, good, good show. Also, very well done. A lot of interesting pictures and kind of classic things that have now become cliche. And Sergei Eisenstein, they showed a picture of him, and man, that dude had some wild hair.
I haven't seen him. I'll have to look him up.
He was like all over like this. And
we learned about that movie in my film class in college, so it's definitely a classic.
It's a classic movie. It's a good one. With the steps and the baby carriage going down the steps. It's brutal. It's very touching. And the last movie was extremely touching. It was called Manchester by the Sea, which is a more recent movie with Casey Affleck. He does an amazing job in that. And Michelle Williams, who I never really thought much of her, but she did an awesome job in that movie too. And Kyle Chandler, the guy from
Friday Night Lights.
Friday Night Lights, yeah, he did a good job. He was the brother. But anyway, it's a depiction that basically is, I think, a very good representation of how PTSD really affects most people. It's not your classic, like, hearing a helicopter and diving underneath the bed. It's more like incapable of handling certain triggering events, and just having them shut down your world occasionally. And that's where this guy was at, and it's really sad. He wants to be more involved with the people around him, but he's just in the grip of anxiety all the time, and he's just terrorized of getting too close to people. And it's an interesting movie.
He said it was quite the downer.
Yeah, it's not a feel-good movie. But it is a very good movie. It's a great movie.
And I've not seen any of those movies, but I used to watch a lot of movies back in the days when I was in high school, but now I have 2 young children who keep me really busy, and I don't watch a lot of movies these days. But I have heard of Battleship Potemkin, and seen clips of it in my college class, and then I've obviously heard of Manchester by the Sea because I think it won some Oscars. Did it win Best Picture? I don't know. I remember it being talked about in the, at the time of the Oscars that year. So, anyway, that's what my dad did at work.
That's what I did at work on Wednesday.
So those are the
your tax dollars.
State tax dollars at work. It's paying my dad to watch movies.
But soon enough, they said, hey, this is unusual. Usually you're gonna have things to fill your day. So hopefully something other than trying to find videos on Metacritic.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's interesting now that you're starting your new job, we can talk about, because it is a state prison, right? Not federal prison. It's a state prison. We can talk about, as a libertarian, working in a state facility, being a state employee, like, what are the things that we see that are angering, or the things that we see that are good, if there are any? It'll give us a lot of fodder for things to talk about.
Yeah, because there's a lot of gray area about, whether the state is worthwhile at all, or how far the state should be able to go, and what kind of things the state should be involved in. I mean, that's a huge topic of probably every political perspective,
System.
but certainly in libertarianism, there's a push toward minimizing the impact of the state on personal liberties, and clearly that comes into huge conflict when somebody is captured by the state, and it and
your rights are taken away from you.
Right.
Some of them
put into the state's custody,
Yeah.
treated like a bad child, and put into timeout.
So I'm sure there'll be things that probably come up every week that we can talk about, whether they're good or bad, or somewhere in between. And then it's funny that my dad was talking so much about escaping the snow, because Christmas Eve, so today's the 26th, 2 nights ago, a huge snowstorm blew in here, and there was lots of snow and ice, and there's still snow on the ground now, which is pretty rare for this area.
Highly unusual for this far south for it to last more than 2 days.
But
it'll probably be gone today, because it's going to be in the 40s.
It's going to be, in the upper 40s today, so it'll all melt. But my children were very excited to see snow. My littlest one we had a couple of experiences with snow last year. It snowed in the DC area at least once, enough for us to actually make a snowman or whatever. Even if it was only this big of a snowman, but it was enough to pack some snow together. And then
we went
back to the Great White North.
Yeah, Upper Michigan
for
my
funeral.
Yeah, for the funeral.
And both my kids, once again, it was like -20 while we were there and all that kind of stuff.
Horrible.
It was so bad. So anyway,
it just completely
reminds us why we
affirmed
left.
the basis for my choice to get out of Dodge.
But my youngest was not even a year old at that point, so she was too young to remember it. So when she saw all the snow coming down, I think she kind of felt like, what's going on? And then yesterday on Christmas Day, we spent a lot of time outside sledding down the hill in my parents' backyard, and eating the snow, eating icicles, doing all that kind of stuff. So she had a really good time.
And my dog loves it.
Oh, yeah.
Oscar.
He loves it, yeah.
He didn't have objections to us saying his name.
Yeah, Oscar doesn't care. Yeah, he had a really good time out in the snow, chasing us down the hill as we were sledding down and stuff. So.
He seemed he was thrilled with it.
Yeah.
He thought that was awesome. It's probably the first time he's been cool in his life.
Yeah. He can get pretty furry when he doesn't go to the groomer long enough. And yeah, so Christmas was yesterday. It was a really good day. It was frustrating because we wanted to go to Mass on Christmas Eve, and that was right when the snowstorm was blowing in. We got on the road to go down the road to go to Mass, and there was a huge backlog of cars all trying to get past a couple people who had skidded off the road and had accidents.
Or slammed into each other or whatever, yeah.
So we were unable to go to Mass. We had to eventually turn around and come back home, but we said our rosary in the car, which was nice. And then we came home and we watched Mass on TV.
Live streamed.
So that was it. It was actually kind of nice because my whole family was able to watch together. my kids.
We never did watch the Bishop
I
Barron.
know. We were going to watch Bishop Barron on Christmas morning, and we just had such a busy Christmas morning that we
Highly recommended Bishop Barron. If you ever get a chance to watch any of Bishop Barron's stuff, he's just awesome.
His homilies are great, and he's been ever since COVID started. I think he's been posting his Sunday homilies. I think he still does it every week. So yeah, really good stuff. I'm definitely gonna go back and watch his homily from Christmas Day. And I also all through Advent, I read he had daily Advent reflections that were really good. So he's a great homilist and teacher and all kinds of stuff. So yeah, we had a really good Christmas. We made cinnamon rolls and lit a candle for Jesus' birthday and sang happy birthday to him and opened presents, of course, and just ate a lot of good food. And all my siblings, so I have 5 younger brothers and sisters. We don't all live here near my parents. So the fact that we're all here together this year, this has been the first time that we've all been here for.
Usually only 2 out of the 6 are home at any time, the youngest 2. The others are off and doing their things all over.
So the fact that we're all
creation.
Here, especially because one of my sisters lives all the way in California, and I live all the way, in DC, so we're completely opposite coasts. So the fact that we're all here together is really nice. And last night we watched Elf as a family, which that's a good movie. I remember seeing it in theaters growing up. My grandpa, his dad, would take us to the movie theater a lot when we were younger. And I remember going with him and laughing a lot. And it's still a really good movie. It holds up. So I'm glad we were able to watch that together as a family. Especially because my kids don't watch a lot of TV and movies.
World's greatest cup of coffee.
So I'm glad that they got to stay up a little bit and watch that as well. So yeah, it was just a really good Christmas day. I think that's all the stuff that we wanted to talk about what's going on right now. So now we wanted to make our first topic for this show is about gas cans and light bulbs. And this was kind of my dad's idea about talking about these things. So do you want to talk about the impetus for this?
Yes, the impetus. Well, the light bulbs thing, that had been going on for years. I don't know if you guys remember when they changed the light bulbs, completely nerfed light bulbs. We used to have these nice incandescent lights that were
totally fine.
Very effective, very efficient. Well, I guess not as efficient as they were supposed to be.
Efficient for our purposes.
Yeah, they worked and they didn't cost much. They were cheap too.
Mm-hmm.
You could buy like 4 light bulbs for $1 or something. Sound like one of those old guys.
Yeah,
I remember when gas was 9 cents a gallon and they gave you a set of towels if you've got to fill up. But no, but light bulbs used to be good. I really do hate fluorescent light and those other kind of other lights.
Ones.
I don't mind LED. LED is pretty. That's our. Those are okay. That might be progress. But the those other ones, what were those ones that we had for a while, like halogen lights or whatever, or CFC lights or whatever they were called, non-CFC, whatever. They sucked.
The bad
They
ones.
were expensive, and they put out this kind of bland light. It wasn't a nice bright light. And you couldn't buy them. You couldn't buy incandescent lights anymore. I guess they were against the law. They're on the black market. You could get like Hungarian import lights made out of recycled Soviet tungsten or something. I don't know what it was. They were cheap and they weren't as good as the nice GE lights that we used to make right here in America, right?
I did do some well, first of all, let's talk about why this came up in the first.
This came up recently again because I got a chainsaw. It's right over there. It's no, I got
There's
a
a
chainsaw.
box for your chainsaw.
Sharpener there, but there's the chainsaw right there.
It's big, otherwise I would hold
It's
it over here.
it's a Remington. It's nice. It's good.
Because you had a battery
I had a battery
powered
operated,
one, but that wasn't.
I tried to be progressive. I tried to use electrical energy.
Do you still have that one? Or
I
not?
still do have it. It's in the other room. Yeah, it uses a 40-volt battery that you charge up. It's a Black and Decker. It's good for what it is, but it doesn't. It's not really a chainsaw.
My dad cuts a lot of wood because he has a wood. He has actually multiple wood burning stoves that heat his house. So having a chainsaw is pretty important to that end.
Yeah.
Unless you're gonna buy all your wood already cut and whatever, but
which defeats the purpose.
We have enough wood.
God gave me so much wood,
so that we can just go.
Why can't I just use it?
So anyway, you needed a chainsaw, so you bought a new chainsaw.
Bought a chainsaw. What does the chainsaw run on? Gasoline.
This new one does.
So I needed a new gas can because you have to add like 20 to 1 oil. I don't know if you knew that. You have to add oil. There's a certain oil that you have to put in for 2-cycle engines. It's either 20 to 1 or 40 to 1. I don't remember. But anyway, I went to buy a gas can. Me and Luke went to find a gas can. We went to Walmart. We went to several other places looking for gas cans, and all they had was these newfangled gas cans that are supposedly like non-spill or whatever. I remember here we go. I remember back in the good old days.
This is gonna be a lot of my dad being an old man, but that's okay because he is an old man. I mean,
oldish.
Older than me.
I'm almost middle age. If I live to be 130.
Yeah.
Don't stuff my teeth. There we go. Anyway, I went to buy a gas can, couldn't find a good gas can, and that really ticked me off. And I looked it up, and apparently it's illegal. The government has said that it is illegal to have just a regular can, a nice red metal can with a screw top and even like a little vent
hole.
Maybe you've got a little plastic thing that vents on the back
to make it
so that it pours nicer and doesn't come glugging out and whatever. You can't buy those anymore. That's illegal.
Okay,
that would be that's like owning a nuclear weapon. Why would you have anything that dangerous in the hands of somebody who is so clearly unqualified to handle a flammable liquid?
So I did some research on both of these things. The gas cans, I found an article from August 10th of 2019, which is coincidentally my anniversary. Not that matters at all. But apparently these new regulations are
matters to you.
Well, it does matter to me. It doesn't matter about the gas cans. This is apparently new regulations from the EPA, so governmental agency. As of January 1st, 2009, all the gas cans sold in the U.S. now have to meet these EPA standards. And this was they are taking these new standards from standards that were set from. You want to guess which state? You can guess which state.
California.
It's always California. The California Air Resources Board, aka CARB, in 2000 set these standards, and now as of 2019, the EPA is making these standards for everybody. And these standards are they're intended to prevent contamination by spilling gas and letting gas, the fumes from gas evaporate or whatever they do. Anyway, all these new gas cans are supposed to prevent all that stuff from happening.
Supposed to, but what do they actually do?
Make you pay a lot more money for gas cans.
Or make you use a workaround that's not nearly as effective as the other gas cans that we used to have.
For the environment.
I now keep my gas in a mason jar. EPA, right here.
So
you can take... You can have my gas when you can pry it out of my dead cold hands.
So the other part of the regulation, which is of course always what the government's trying to do, is to protect the children. Congress passed a Children's Gasoline Burn Prevention Act. That's really what it's called in 2008. And now all of these new cans have to have safety measures to protect the children.
2008. Huh.
So anyway, I saved some of the, let me find it real quick. I saved the regulations. But anyway, what they're mainly supposed to have child-proof mechanisms on them so that children can't get into gas. Which, I mean, like, of course.
So ironically, now I've got this mason jar
full of gasoline
without a lid, just sitting outside, right next to where I keep my matches.
In full
Is that safer?
access of my children.
Is it safer? EPA, did you really help me out? Did you really help my kids out?
So here's what the regulations are.
Tell little Luke, who's all burned up and like charred. I'm kidding. That's not true.
Okay, the regulations require a single self-venting opening for filling and pouring with no separate vents or openings. A permeation-resistant container that permits no more than 0.3 grams per gallon per day of hydrocarbon emissions. Automatic closure such as a nozzle that automatically springs to the closed position when the user is not pouring from the container. And childproof features as outlined by the Children's Gasoline Burn Prevention Act. So those are the new regulations. Now, you can legally still use your old gas cans that don't meet the regulations, but you cannot purchase regular non-safety gas cans.
Hey, buddy, want to buy a gas can?
So if you still have your old gas cans, it's still legal to use, which I don't even know how they would possibly, enforce that if they did make it illegal. But you cannot buy those gas cans anymore. So that is the new regulations regarding gas cans.
That was the burr that got under my saddle that made me feel like maybe we should talk about that.
Yeah,
because I understand what the government's point is. They're well intended.
They always are.
They always are.
Almost.
I almost always trust the government to be well intended. I also almost always trust them to overstep their bounds.
Yeah, to muck it up and
they assume that they are better arbiters of what is progress and what is safety than other people. They don't trust other people. They tell in the whole COVID brouhaha finagle crap sandwich that we've been fed over this past
I'm
year.
sure we'll have multiple episodes about
is
COVID.
Exactly. It's a perfect example of that.
Yeah.
Just one problem after another where the government thought they knew something and thought they should tell everybody what to do instead of informing people and letting people make their own choices.
Yeah.
I understand that all progress is going to require change, but not all change is progress. And a lot of times the committees that come up with ideas for how American life should proceed have no good sense about progress. The free market decides what's the best way to handle that stuff. We had a perfectly good gas can and the government took it away.
Well, and I also did some research on the light bulbs. This is actually kind of a point of good news, I guess. So there was a New York Times article from September of 2019, so a little over a year ago, which they were talking about the ban on energy-efficient light bulbs.
Energy inefficient,
sorry. The ban on energy inefficient light bulbs. Now, the Trump administration actually kind of pulled back from that and we're saying we're not going to ban these anymore. The original kind of ban on that stuff started in 2007 under the Bush administration. They started to phase out those old, pear-shaped light bulbs is what they call them. the energy inefficient ones. They started phasing those out, and I think they were supposed to be completely phased out and illegal by the year 2020, if I'm getting that correctly.
This year.
But Trump pulled back on that and said we're not going to ban it anymore. And I actually have a good quote from the
Thank you, Donald.
yeah, really. So the Trump administration said that the changes would benefit.
Shame on you, George.
The Trump administration said the changes would benefit consumers by keeping prices low and eliminating government regulation. And every time I see that, I think, thank you, Trump. You don't do everything right, but that was a good thing to say. And that Shaylin, I think her name is something like Shaylin Hines. She was a spokeswoman for the Department of Energy, said that the 2007 law requires the department to issue standards, quote, only when doing so would be economically justified, and these standards are not, end quote. She added that the administration's actions will ensure that the choice of how to light homes and businesses is left to the American people, not the federal government. And that's all.
Thank you.
That's all that we're asking for.
Thank you.
Is let people decide what is good for them themselves. The government.
My neighbor, who's can be kind of a jerk sometimes. I hope he's not watching. But he came over one day and he was talking with me and he said, all I want the government to do is get out of the way. You know, I just want to live a good life. I just want, I don't mind the government doing the things that the government does for the most part, but I just wish they would get out of the way. He was kind of complaining about the COVID shutdown because he was not allowed to do some of his work for a while, which.
And a lot of people were like that. A lot of people were prevented from doing the things that provided for them and their families because of good intentions of the government of trying to keep people safe.
And if it wasn't for the state paying me to basically do nothing to now,
watch movies,
I would be in the same shape. So
yeah, I guess the moral of the story, which we're trying to convey, is that there's so many things that we kind of take for granted that, we go out to purchase these things, and the reason things are the way they are is because of government intervention into people's lives and telling them how to live and what they're allowed to do and what they're not allowed to do. So, as far as gas cans, that's the reason you can't find a gas can is because of the government. And luckily...
And if it saved one child from burning, it was worthwhile. Honestly. I'm not sure it has. I'm not sure that you can demonstrate that. But if it has, awesome. That would be great. Nevertheless, I think a lot of the times what the government, even though they have great intentions, and occasionally the government does some great things. This whole project Warp Speed, coming up with a vaccine for this COVID, which is it's a vicious virus for a lot of folks. People who are vulnerable really get affected strongly by it and need to be protected from it. This whole Warp Speed thing, that was an awesome thing that the government came up with. They spent a lot of money. They got some good results. That is a valid use of tax dollars.
I might disagree with that, but that's okay. We can talk about it some other time.
In my opinion, that is a worthwhile thing. The government does occasionally do some worthwhile things, and but that's not to say that private industries could not have done the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
Private industries basically did the work.
Yeah.
The government funded it, I think, to a great extent, and promised to buy a lot of it. But it was private industries. It was Pfizer and
Moderna
and a couple other companies that came up with these vaccines so quickly, which is a great thing for the future because I think it creates a template for how future pandemics are going to be able to be stemmed off earlier without all this crapola.
Without having a year of just complete economic shutdown. And
remember in March when we were going to have 2
2
weeks?
weeks.
2 weeks to shut it down.
2 weeks to slow the spread. And now this is
and
now
now
December.
And now there's less than 2 weeks left in the year,
Yeah.
and we're still
no end in sight.
Shut down in big ways. But anyway, the government does a lot of great things. The government is excellent. We ought to talk more about a lot of the great things that the government does, because I'm really grateful that we live in the United States.
Yeah.
And I think, compared to a lot of other countries, we're still a lot freer than other people are. We still have a lot less burdens.
Yeah.
Nevertheless, there needs to be that constant dialogue, that constant pushback, because the government just tends to be a snowball, and it keeps picking up more and more and more all the time. It never lets go of certain powers.
Yeah.
It always uses crises to take more powers, like Homeland Security, like this whole COVID thing. Like
by declaring things a state of emergency, they can kind of do whatever they want.
Like the whole Social Security system, and obviously the Depression was huge. It was a huge issue. There needed to be, there probably needed to be some kind of governmental thing in order to stem that off, in order to recorrect everything. That's not to say that the government didn't do a lot of things that caused the problem in the first place. The government often creates solutions that become the next set of problems, and that tend to escalate into that kind of stuff. But
the government does do good things, is our point. And I appreciate a lot, like I said, it's not like I agree with everything Trump has ever done and said. To put it mildly. Yeah. So, but I do appreciate the fact that in general, his administration has been trying to cut back on regulation. And as far as light bulbs, it seems like that's one area where this has been happening.
Although I do like those new LED light bulbs. Those things are really good.
Well, and it's not like they're going to be illegal. It's just that they're going to say you have options. You don't have to buy LEDs. You can buy the old, what did you say? Ukrainian imports or something? Black market smuggled ones? Whatever they are. You can have options.
Hey, buddy, you want to buy some Hungarian light bulbs?
So, I think that's all some good news. And I don't know, what do you I feel like, what do you think the Catholic perspective on this is? I feel like I think that
the Catholic perspective is that God is behind it all, and he's always doing things for our best, even if it doesn't always feel like that, and even if it's harder for us to see it. And even in times like this, Father Dan always used to say, the sooner you can get to a point where you say, thank you, Lord, for this too, is helping me to grow and change as a person and be more reliant on you and be more appreciative of all the love that you give us and your providence. The sooner we can get to that, the holier we will be. And that's really the only program that we as people need to have. I mean, we should be involved in helping other people to do that, and hopefully that's what we're doing here a little bit. But that would be the Catholic perspective, I think, is that God made us free. God gave us free will, and he gave us very few limitations. There's 10 commandments, but there's really only one great commandment: love one another as I have loved you. Impossible to do, but an awesome thing to keep aspiring toward all the time, and something that we have to, just like the government needs to be kept in check as far as the influence that they exert on the world. Our ourselves need to be kept in check, and we need to constantly be thinking: Is this what God made me for? Am I being my best self? Am I doing what I should be doing with my life and my time and my talent and my treasure? And am I serving other people? Am I closed-handed or am I open-handed? Am I giving or am I holding on? Because what you hold on to, you lose, and what you give away, you get back double. That's the Catholic perspective, and that's a beautiful perspective, and it's something that has helped the world to be a better place when it's been put into practice. Now, when people have overreached on that, that's a problem too, like the Spanish Inquisition.
The Inquisition. Yeah. So I think that's probably where we should end it for today. I think that's a good message to end it on. But we'll probably be back, and we'll probably be talking. Maybe.
This may be our maiden and final voyage.
Episode.
This might be the Titanic episode, or it might be just the first.
The beginning of a new adventure. So we'll have to see. But if you watched this, thank you, and hopefully we'll see you again soon. Anything else?
Subscribe and patronize our.
No. If you want to subscribe, you can, and you'll see when we make new episodes if we do. But there's nothing to patronize right now. At this moment in time,
we're hoping to get some.
We are free market capitalists. So if you want to give us some money, we're not going to say no. But at this point, we're just doing this for fun.
But if you would like to sponsor our program, I will be honest about your products, and if it sucks,
That's true.
I'm going to say this is
garbage.
This is like those CFC lights. This is like one of those new gas. Who needs this? You don't need this. Don't buy this. Don't waste your money.
All right. I think we should end it.
Okay.
We'll see you soon.
God bless you all.
All right. Bye.